everybody. Welcome to the media show on the Pod TV network. I'm Nick Pallavito. I will be your moderator until I pass the baton off to someone else, maybe Kim, who will take over as moderating this show. And today we're also going to look at something very important, is the Olympics and how the media covered the Olympics today. And with that, we will bring in the Honorable Kim Calhoun to discuss the Olympics. And what were your thoughts?
I'm so honored.
Well, it is what it is around here. So
yeah.
What are your thoughts about the Olympic coverage?
I think the Olympic coverage has become a cesspool of toxic and poisons of everyone trying to shame everyone instead of just enjoying the games for what it is. Instead of, while in Rome, do as the Romans and enjoy the culture that the Romans have. You know, you've got all of these religious and political things happening. It's no longer games to me. It's, you know, I have enjoyed the gymnastics. If I get a chance to maybe watch like the ending of it. Then there was the gentleman who proposed to his girlfriend. They, I guess, both won medals the other day. Very romantic. But at the end of the day, I just don't think that the Olympics are what we always wanted them to be anymore. I think it's just too much of the politics that are into play. And I also believe that that they do test and vet before they let people on. But I think the media has gotten involved and they're the ones causing all the turmoil. And I think it's just so that they can get views, you know, kind of like Bland, you know, accusing someone of being transgender without even knowing whether they were transgender, just based on words out of someone's mouth. The media ruins this person's life. They should be sued. Where's Nick? Nick, you should sue for this person. That was defamation of that person's character, and horrible. It should have never been done. I felt like that was a scam to begin with, because the little girl that he was fighting, I think, because they had told her before she went into the ring, oh, this is a transgender. And I think she had it in her mind, I'm going to go in for a few seconds, bail out, and then cry, you know, oh, transgender, it's a man hitting me, and automatically get defaulted the gold. And I honestly think, Nick, that was her plan, because you can see how quick she dives out and immediately she accuses somebody of being something they're not, when the Olympics does a lot of vetting and testing, and more on women than men. They don't do this much on men. They vet them for doping and drugs, but they don't vet a man to see if he's really a man. But the women have been tested for many, many, many years. You know, violate our private parts, looking at them and everything. So I think that the Olympics has turned into something that needs, you know, and it's because of the media. I think the toxic is related to the media.
Okay, are we going to see any changes on a going forward basis, though?
I don't know, Nick. I mean, I hope there is maybe changes on vetting people, maybe categorizing, you know, people who are of a mixed gender type thing. I don't know how you do that, because they're identified at birth. You know, I think that we're going to have to see some changes. Otherwise, maybe get rid of contact sports. You know, just get rid of them completely, including the males. I mean, if you're going to have to get rid of the women's, get rid of the men's. You know, do they do this much in soccer, right? And in the team sports, do they vet everyone to be a woman or a man? I mean, how much of that is done? I don't know, but you know, we've got one of our panelists who's a genius on some of these things and on data, who also helps us do research. And we've got our friend from Canada to, you know, kind of share their insights on this global event that happens every 4 years, to me, at the wrong time. It's usually during the United States political campaign season, which, you know, can get really dirty, messy. But do you guys think that this is going to change moving forward the way that they do things?
But here, buckle your seatbelts. I'm about to say a bunch of bad stuff.
Oh, okay.
The boxing lady from Algeria that was the controversy. Like, I'm a gross old man, but if I weren't, I'd date her. She's from Algeria. We don't know what beauty standards are like. She might be an Algerian 8. If you dress her up like a Fox News anchor, perfectly dateable. My wife's, she's 5'10". My wife's 5'10". It's nice to be with a tall woman.
Oh, women can be nice, Rick, and everything.
I'm short, but I hear it's nice to be with a tall woman.
It's nice to be with anybody, but
I think she has her attractiveness. She's graceful. She's very athletic, very body built very well. I mean, more than what I would care my body to be built, but I've seen women bodybuilders, and they look more manly than she does. So
there was a whole lot of attraction.
I don't look like it now, but I was a bodybuilder, and I like the muscly woman look.
Hey, Sasha, what's your take on that? Because I know there was a time that a lot of the Russian athletes were accused of being manly and everything, but I will tell you that I watched some of the volleyball and some of the soccer matches, particularly the volleyball, and even some of the diving and swimming, and some of those women were very graceful looking, and I would argue that they had a certain beauty standard. Gabby is not a unattractive woman, the soccer star from Brazil, and a number of the other ladies looked very attractive as well, including some of the basketball players. So I just wanted your take on some of the beauty standards of some of these Olympic athletes.
I think the most attractive women were in beach volleyball by far. I'm surprised that you're so much talking about this Algerian boxer, whether it's him or her or it or whatever it might be. I was watching all Olympics on all possible channels, including US channels and Canadian channels. And there was CBC actually created fantastic channel, CBC Gem. Now, what it's possible is that you're going into the channel, and it was free. You don't have to pay anything. And then you would have all kinds of sports, and you choose which one you want to see, not what network, whether it's NBC or somebody else will show you, but you choose which event you want to see from beginning to the end in all its entirety. And that was a fabulous thing. The only thing is, when you're watching all these normal channels, they throw you a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and you're following so many sports at once. But I like, for example, games like soccer or basketball, volleyball or others. I like to watch like from the beginning to the end. I don't want to be interrupted. I don't need commercials. I don't need some other sports thrown at me while I'm watching this one. So that Gem, CBC Gem, provided exactly that, and you could choose by what's now, what's coming up and at what time. Then you can go sport by sport and choose any particular sport and all the events there. So that was fantastic, and all that was happening almost 24 hours a day. And that on all the channels, that incident with Algerian boxer, whether it's she or her or it or whatever it might be, you know what? It had its maybe 30 seconds mentioning. That's about it, because it was such a spectacular success. It was such a spectacular show, one of its kind. In my opinion, the only other Olympics that would be compared to this one is London 2012. Probably that's the only one. Other than that, it beats everything possible and impossible by far.
I want to go back to the attractiveness of athletes who thinks athletes are attractive are the other athletes. 10,500 athletes at this Olympics, 300,000 condoms handed out.
Yeah, there might have been some sad activities going on and everything like that, but I was just wondering, what are some of the sports that caught you off guard that you did not know that much about that you enjoyed? I'll be perfectly honest, I was not that knowledgeable about, even though it's a popular game, even in some gyms and everything, handball. But I was actually impressed with the skill set of the handball players. And even though I remember playing as a kid, some of the angles and the shots that the Asian people were able to take in table tennis were truly remarkable and everything. So, and of course, Freddie Flip.
The breakdancing event.
And everything. So, and breakdance, I did see some of the breakdancing. So,
What was remarkable was the Australian breakdancer. Everybody loved her because she didn't do a good job.
Mhm.
And interestingly, she has a PhD in breakdancing. She got her doctorate in studying it, but she didn't do a good job of doing it. I thought that the synchronized swimming has gotten really, it's not respectful to say crazy, but it's really interesting to watch. And they let guys, I didn't see any guys doing it, but I read an article that if you can be a male synchronized swimmer now, which would be extra weird. Writing a novel.
But speaking of weird, Rick, did you see that in one of the synchronized swimming routines, I think it was the American one, they literally did an upside down moonwalk. A moonwalk is hard enough to do straight.
I didn't see it. I see that more than half the action takes place underwater, where they have an underwater cam and they're doing all this stuff upside down in the water.
And I was impressed.
I'm writing a novel set in the 2030s, and one of the new sports in the 2036 Olympics will be pole dancing.
Pole dancing, and I've heard people say that should be an Olympic sport. I know that this time in 2028 they're going to add cricket, lacrosse, and also flag football, and they're going to add a couple of other things as well. I was truly impressed with, which is another sport I used to watch on occasion, but the water polo was truly amazing, and there was even a sister, African-American woman that was doing the goalie work, even though they finished in fourth and did not get a medal, but she did seem like she was doing some strong saves and everything along those lines.
Water polo kind of bums me out because it just looks like such hard work. You're just paddling, trying to, it's brutal.
Yeah, it's definitely a brutal one and everything. Speaking of entertainment and all on those lines, because we're talking about media, and there were some media stars. I know that I think one of Jimmy Fallon was out there. I don't know if Jimmy Kimmel was out there or not, and everything, but he might have been out there. Now I'm trying to think.
No, because NBC owns the Olympics,
right.
So they're going to use Fallon, who's the NBC guy. They also used SNL people a lot because SNL is also an NBC show.
But what did you think of, because one of the commentators is a well-known, because we know they celebrate their 50th anniversary, and I thought that as a interviewer and as a person who was having some serious human interest stories and everything, Snoop actually did not do that bad, because I was not going to be that big of a fan of him being in the Olympics, but I thought he actually did a good job in terms of conversating with the athletes and even having some fun with them and all along those lines. But I just wanted your take on Snoop.
Snoop is now an upstanding guy. He does a lot of good work with like youth football, and I'm sure he's very philanthropic. And I know some people laugh about that because, similar to Don King, in his youth, Don King definitely killed a guy, the boxing promoter, maybe two people. And there's speculation that when Snoop was a young gangbanger, he also maybe murdered.
You can have redemption, because one of my friends, and he's been on our network in the past, I think, if I remember correctly, but Mike Anderson has definitely been in that space. He has a group called Polished Souls. That's the name of his book, and I think the name of his movie as well. But he definitely was involved in some murders and everything else. But now he is doing a lot of work with gang kids, getting those kids out of gangs. As a matter of fact, he was at that theater festival that I was at, not this past weekend, but the weekend before and everything. So yeah, there can be redemption stories from a number of folks.
There's a brand of bread called Dave's Killer Bread. Mm-hmm. Dave it's based on him actually murdering somebody. So it's craziness.
No, it's totally craziness and everything. Kim, what was your take on that? Because I was looking more, because I am a heterosexual male, at the women and everything. But there were some guys that I guess the women would consider attractive, including some of the divers and weightlifters and things along those lines, including some of the track folks. I know that one of my coworkers is distantly related to Noah Lyles and something like that. But there were some of the athletes that you women folks might have found attractive, or even people that are gay males that might have found attractive as well. So I was just wondering
I-
your take on some of the male athletic physique.
Very physically fit surfers, right? And not necessarily always from the US. I found the surfers to be just extremely well fit. And then you do have the swimmers. I'm not a big, bulky kind of, that doesn't attract me. Just stay in shape, look healthy, keep your body lean. Those kind of things, because that's what's hard to do in this day and time with the foods and the diets that we have, especially in the US. But I found that the divers, they generally have to stay very slim and fit. But yeah, I mean, I found them all, even the women, I found them to be very attractive too. I'm not gay, but I can look at a body and go, wow, that is a very attractive body. So
Kim, I would suggest that probably LeBron James wouldn't be your pick among the men, no?
I mean, he's what they call a zaddy, a silver zaddy, which is, he has a lot of white in his beard right now. And what you may not get the youngest body, but with LeBron, you get a net worth of $1 billion. So.
Yeah, you get a whole lot of money. Same with Seth Curry and everybody. So there's some athletes out there. Hey, Jatobia, because I know you're in that e-sport. We're talking about
how we put
the
a worth on
attractiveness
body.
of the women and the athletes there and everything. But Ricky brought up this notion because I didn't know that there was a bunch of condoms there. There was also people complaining about the nature of the beds and everything. And I know that you work with some athletes here in the area and everything. So I guess my question to you is how much, whether you're at the Olympics or whatever, for lack of a better term, friskiness is going on and everything. So there's like maybe some Australian woman that's getting together with the British man or everything like that. So we think that there are some match hookups that are taking place in the Olympics of this year, or maybe in the Olympics of the past. So you think that some of that goes on? Because we are talking tens, if not hundreds of thousands of athletes, and a lot of these folks are very young in age. They're everything from teenagers. I think the oldest one was a rifle shooter that was like in his, it might have been one of the horsemen as well. It was like in their mid to early 50s and everything. And there might have been some older, but those are the ones that I saw that were older. But most of these athletes are between, let's say, 18 to 35.
I mean, I'm sure there are connections that'll happen. I mean, people are people. I mean, I don't really have much to add to it. I mean, yeah, the Olympics has always had the stereotype around it that it becomes, that a lot of people end up hooking up. I mean, again, I don't doubt it. People are people. You're in an area with a bunch of attractive people.
Yep.
So I just found an article about it. And as I said, 10,000 athletes, 300,000 condoms. But in 2020, there was an intimacy ban because of COVID. That ban was lifted. So I haven't gotten through the rest of the article, but yeah, people, I don't know where people go to hook up. Do they just walk up and down the halls? Are there are there bars for the athletes? Are the coaches allowed to hang out in the athletes' discos? I have a lot of questions. I don't think I'm going to have answered.
I mean,
Although the most interesting thing what's happened during the chess Olympiad in Greece in 1998. At that time, there was a team of Soviet Union, which was obviously the favorite to win both men's and women's Olympiad. And one of the Russian girls, she passed away a few years ago, so I can say her name without any problems. My wife actually knew her very well, Anya Akhmelovskaya. So she, before the very last round, where Soviet Union was fighting for gold with Hungary, and eventually Hungary won the gold, and it was first time ever. And she left Russian team and went on with captain of American team. He's alive. I don't want to say his name, but you can search and find all the story. So she went on in great secrecy, and there was a security service. They went to board a U.S. plane from Greece to United States, and they went there and married. And very shortly, she left him for another Russian player, but in the United States. and for several last years of her life, she was with this guy. So that was extraordinary situation. It was political, it was personal, it was everything, whatever you want from this story to learn.
That makes sense. Hey,
I found another article. We have swimmer Ryan Lochte said he guessed that around 70 to 75% of Olympians hook up.
I believe it
And allegedly Grindr, which is for gay hookups, Grindr allegedly crashed during the 2012 games in London.
Wow, they crashed because so many people were involved in relationships and all along those lines. What is it? Because
Also, wait, one more thing about hooking up is the Olympics are 16 days long. If
Yeah,
you
that's
get
it's
done
very
with
long,
your
so there's plenty of time to hook up and everything. And I do know that even at conferences, there can be hookups, and sometimes even people that are married know that when folks are going to the conferences, there might be the danger of that happening, because that's something that I know some spouses are concerned about when their spouse goes to conferences and all along those lines. But I was going to ask about the closing ceremony, because there was all that controversy about the opening one. I thought the closing one was very good. It included a performance, I think, of the Star Spangled Banner by her, and I'm actually a fan of her because she's both a good singer and a very talented guitarist as well. And then there was also other folks, I think on the U.S. side, Red Hot Chili Peppers was playing, and there were a number of other well-known performers, including some that weren't as well-known. Like I know there was a French opera singer, I think a couple of French opera singers, and then there was the symphony that was playing in the closing, and there was this kind of dystopian environment theme of like what it would be like if there was no Olympics and an alien was supposed to be coming down. So there was like a sci-fi theme as well. So I just wondering, because I know you follow a lot of entertainment, your take on the closing, both Sasha and Jatovi. So whoever wants to go first.
I can say only one thing, that her rendition of American Anthem, could be compared only to one of Whitney Houston. Nothing else comes close to it.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was a great rendition. I thought she did a great
It was
rendition.
great, by far.
Your take, Jatovi, guess on the whole thing?
I mean, the overall Olympics I thought were great. I mean, from the opening ceremonies to the games themselves to even the closing ceremony. I think we get, as people, I think we forget how big of an event and all the logistics that go inside of the Olympics, because you're having to deal with multiple countries, multiple athletes, multiple cultures, multiple events over a 16-day period. Just thinking about putting together a small event local and magnifying, adding in, you got over 200 people in a separate culture that's at war with another country. Like, for example, I think it was in archery, when it was China versus Chinese Taipei, and it ended up where it was badminton. Yeah, ping pong, I'm sorry, or table tennis. Because what ended up happening was China went and only highlighted things that made China look well, and they actually deleted and went black when they announced even that Chinese Taipei won or Taiwan, but they have to go by Chinese Taipei just for the Olympics. It's just wild. All the things that you have to look at going into the Olympics and actually figuring it all out. It's just impressive to me. So yeah, there can be,
but to tell me, the flip side of that to what China did and everything was there is a beautiful social media moment and everything, because there are two countries that are divided. Speaking of countries divided and everything, and they are on opposite ends of the communism spectrum and everything. One is meaning one is a communist country, the other is not. But there is a great viral moment of the athletes from South Korea and North Korea actually taking a selfie together, even though we know that those are polarly opposite countries in terms of their political views. But they got together in that athletic moment and actually took selfies together and were bonding together, even though they are from opposite ends of the political divide.
I mean, that's again, that's the beauty of the Olympics. Like, even talking about China and Taiwan, how people where they went to avoid all the the things they want to say good in the country about Taiwan, the people actually at the event were celebrating with each other. That's the beauty of the Olympics and the cool part to see. I mean, if you look at when you're watching gymnastics, sure, you're having the issues where the countries are trying to figure out the gold medals and the medal counts and all this other stuff and all the inherent political pieces that are there. But what about when, the young lady from Romania is already saying that she's hoping and praying that they give us all a bronze medal? But no, we're focused so much on USA now doing an appeal and all the evidence and all the other stuff. Or even when the three women on stage were Simone Biles, the greatest athlete ever in the gymnastics, if she's bowing down to the next great one coming out of Brazil, a country that, we're sitting here in the US trying to go after on the border saying, well, these people from South America coming in. No, we're praising this young lady, Rebecca, who did a phenomenal job and is the next great gymnast. And she had 2 ACL surgeries. No, I think it was 1 ACL surgery. But it's just, that's the beauty to watch. And that was, again, why I say the Olympics was great. I mean, the celebration of Paris and the celebration of France and all they have to offer at the beginning and how they went back to Greek culture and talked about the history of the Olympics, and then closing the show doing the same thing with, what was it, the golden figure, I forget, that was also celebrated there. That was a representation dealing with the history of the Olympics. It's just, I thought it was phenomenally done. Yeah, there were hiccups. Yes, there were problems. There are always going to be problems from the size and scope of an event like that. But again, overall, it was very well done.
I thought it was well done.
I'll make you a question and I'll make you think before you answer that. Story, tell me, where do you see more difference between, say, Taipei and Chinese people as Olympiad is concerned, or between Russian and Ukrainian people? How do you view it?
In terms of the Olympics wise, or in terms of geopolitical wise?
Not only because Olympics was 2 weeks event and it's came and go. Now I'm asking you the difference between Taipei people, Chinese people, and mainland China people, and on the other hand, Ukrainian people and Russian people.
On a very simplistic level, yes, they are exactly in the same position. Chinese Taipei or Taiwan wants their independent sovereignty, and they want to be away from China. They want to be able to make their own democratic elections and run their own government and so on and so forth. But that's where the difference is that China has more control over Taiwan than Russia has over Ukraine. However, Russia wants that control over Ukraine the way that China has it over Taiwan. So Taiwan's trying to get where Ukraine is, and Russia's trying to get where China is. So I would say on a very rudimentary level.
There's a moment I liked, and Jatovi, you tell me if I'm off base or not, but the entire U.S. men's basketball team is African American. And at the end, and I'm sure that many members of that team have expressed, discontent over, police being overly murdery of black people. But at the end of the game, they were all running around holding up flags, and I like that.
Well, I mean, you're spot on there. I mean, the thing is, and this is where I'll harken back to what President Obama said, and actually even Michelle Obama, what they tried to attack her on when they both said, hey, we love this country so much, we should be able to criticize it. We want it to be better. And that's the way we should always be. It's the same thing where, years ago during the Olympics, that's where the whole Black Fist came from, because the individuals on the podium always were talking about how, you come back from Vietnam and we can't even find homes and houses, and we're subjected to racism and everything else. We're not seen as equal. And that's true. And so they were using their platform to speak up on that. Again, the Olympics is inherently political. It is what it is. I mean, there are just so many things that we should take from it and learn from the Olympics, but we don't. What we do is we get trapped in these idiotic arguments of, oh, well, hey, she wasn't a man and all. And no, I mean, she was a biological woman. Understand that. Understand also that had it not been for the women in the U.S. Olympics this year, we would not have won as many golds as we won. The U.S. women won 26 golds of the 40 that we won. So without the women who won more medals, they actually are the ones that carried us. Which, getting back to politics, think about it. Right now in the workforce, women are 50% of the workforce, but also they're giving less money. They're not treated as equals. They won more medals. They've done everything equal to the men, but they're not given that same latitude as men are given, or that same equal that same experience as men, which they should be given that same experience. They should be given an equality. And then take, for instance, the election. If you look at the political side of things, I've said this multiple times, and this is why I think another reason why Kamala Harris has a good chance of winning this year. Women are carrying the election this year, hands down. What's going on with the abortion issue? That's what ever since Roe was overturned, abortion has played a role in every election after that. Every time it was on the ballot, it has passed and been set into law. The reason why it's not passed in Texas is because it wasn't on the ballot. The reason why these abortion bans are there in these states is because they weren't on the ballot. The ones that had them on the ballot, the actual issue passed and women wanted it. More than 80 some odd % of the country wants women to have access to this. So this is why women are carrying the ballot in November, but on women carried us to win the most gold, or tied for the most gold medals in the Olympics. So it's, and the community, like I said, with watching gymnastics, the community of women just cheering each other on, celebrating each other, being as you pointed out, Rick, from different countries, different cultures, and it's just cool to see. Those are the lessons that we should learn, but we're not going to learn those. We're going to get into petty arguments over silly things, and oh well, they were insulting Christians at the beginning. No, they weren't. They weren't at all.
Speaking of petty arguments, Trump's been doing a terrible job of campaigning the last couple of weeks. Do you think he can get his shit together?
No, I don't. I think
Why not? Is it because he's sad? Is it because he's old? Is it because he doesn't have the right campaign staff? Is it because he's overconfident? What's the deal?
Just before you answer that really quickly, Jacoby, I was going to add to that because I'm wondering about this chasing the plane that Vance is doing, because apparently Vance was trying to claim that he just wanted to see the plane that he's going to get eventually, which is the Air Force Two, which is the plane that the vice president goes out and everything along those lines. And of course, they are apparently trying to track wherever Kamala and Waltz are going in order to kind of like do this shadow campaign, for lack of a better term. And I don't know that that's going to be effective either, but I just wanted your take on that, because it does seem like anywhere that Kamala and Tim go, that J.D. Vance is right behind them and trying to follow them. So it seems to be a new strategy that Trump has put out there of going to the rallies and even claiming that the rallies are fake.
So with the J.D. Vance doing the whole troll thing, I think that is awkward and a bad move on so many levels. Specifically, think about the issue of domestic abuse in the U.S. What is one of the big things that is a part of domestic abuse? Stalking. What was J.D. Vance doing? Stalking. So now you're offending women by stalking another woman and trying to intimidate that woman. That's another form of domestic abuse. So a lot of people who saw that are going to be offended by that. And it's a very harmful visual. On top of that, this is where Trump comes into play, because I think J.D. Vance said what you're talking about, Rick, as to why it's going to be a problem. Entitlement. J.D. Vance didn't say this is the people's plane or anything like that. JD Vance said, "This is my plane."
Right.
He said, "I'm checking out my plane." That's entitlement. And so with what's going on with Trump and why it's going to continue to downfall and spiral out of control is because, one, he has a displeasure, I guess I want to put. No, he has a disdain for strong women challenging him and black people challenging him. So those two things are right now meeting in the middle. And what's happening is he's trying to figure out some way to make something stick. It's not 2016 anymore, because now if you go to Nasty Woman, now you're falling into a lot of stereotypes that you don't want to have. Bennett, no. And those, I'm out of the park. But
here's a crazy. You talked about the plane. Trump's main plane, Trump Force One, has been grounded. He's got a secondary plane that he's also painted in the Trump's colors. That plane used to belong to Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh wow, that's not a good look and everything. That's a very bad look and everything. But this is along those same lines, and this is something for you, Duffy, but maybe Sasha wants to jump into. This ties politics and Olympics together and everything. Because one of the things that I've seen, there was a positive trend, and there was another one that a lot of people love. I'm not a big fan of it, but that's just me personally. I can't remember whether you got any, Rick, or you, Jatovi, and everything. But the one thing that came out is there were a number of athletes, including some from other countries, that were very much biracial, and they were proud of their diversity of their heritage, whatever that was. I know that was the case with, I think, some of the Brazilian volleyball players and some of the other ones as well, and everything, including some of the European ones. And then there was also this notion, because one of those players that I think was biracial was celebrating his diversity on his tattoo, because he was actually, I think he was one of the Brazilian volleyball players, if I remember correctly, but he was celebrating the notion of diversity and the importance of diversity with his personal tattoo. So there were a lot of athletes of all genders and all of both genders, and definitely of all races, that were very much big on this tattoo culture. Like I said, my brother has a tattoo. I've never been wanting to go and want to get a tattoo. Those things can hurt and everything. So I was just wondering y'all's take on this tattoo culture that our athletes are celebrating, as well as the biracial nature of our society.
It's no, I'm going to say a bad thing, but it's no secret that it's a stereotype that biracial people are hot. And I've got a list here of biracial people: and Olivia Rodrigo, Saweetie, Hines Ward, Naomi Osaka. I mean, so yeah, Kimura. Just this is an old list. Doesn't even have all the new biracial people. But you mix diverse gene pools, and maybe it's, I don't know, a myth, but you get good results.
In Brazil, there is no even such thing as biracial people. There are multiracial people in Brazil, because there is no such thing as the racial discrimination of any kind or so on. Because how one, let's see, a brown person who's slightly, probably a little bit darker than the other brown person who is a little bit fair mix of colors, how they can exploit each other or say that, oh, I have advantage over you, my race is bigger and better and stronger than yours. It doesn't make any sense at all, and it's not happening. So there's no movement as brown life matters, or black life matters, or white life matters. In Brazil, it's simply impossible even to imagine such as this.
Yeah, and it's no coincidence that Brazil is also the world capital of butts. They even have a national pageant for the best butt in Brazil. Also, the Olympics were the most butt-intensive Olympics of all time.
But I mean, the irony, as we think of the irony right now. We all celebrated the Olympics and those who won. The Olympics is inherently a celebration of diversity. What's going on today in our culture? We have one presidential candidate. We have one political party that's wholeheartedly against quote unquote DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. What did they just celebrate? They celebrated diversity, equity, and inclusion in the Olympics. because that's all it is, from multiracial, as you pointed out, um, to women, I mean, it's just the only thing that they haven't been able to cross that hurdle on is the transgender community. They've done gay and lesbian, which is also celebrated at the Olympics. But it's just the irony that we, in our culture right now, or one political party, one presidential candidate who's running on it, is fighting against the one thing that we just celebrated and wanted to win the most medals in. The area of diversity, equity, and inclusion is what the Olympics is.
It's also a celebration of crazy genetics. When the whole boxer controversy came up, people were saying, well, then you can't let Michael Phelps compete because he has huge genetic advantage. He's got twice the lung capacity. He's got like a reach of, I don't know, 7 feet. He's got all. So the Olympics is a celebration of genetically freaky people, also people who are insane, who are willing to do work, train 6 hours a day, 7 days a week for 10 years.
Well, speaking of insane, Rick, and all along those lines, one of the things that the commentators kept referring to, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it and everything, is that, and she's thinking about running or swimming in the Olympics in the 2028 Olympics, but Ledecky has literally swam around the world by the amount of times that she has swum, training and everything. That to me is like crazy.
Swimming is such a miserable sport. It's so brutal. It's 4 hours a day of just paddling. It's and the chlorinated water, like messes with your skin and your hair, and it's just drudgery. And that freaking lady, has swum 23,000 miles in her life. Just paddle.
Yeah, that's like just incredible.
I mean,
Done that.
I was on the swim team and I did the crew team for a little bit too. But the thing is, it's just whatever sport you love. And, Katie Ledecky, greatest, well, you got Michael Phelps, who's the greatest swimmer overall. Katie Ledecky is actually about to pass him. She has a shot and she can become the best swimmer in the world. She's already best women's swimmer. She beat out most men. She's almost, if she gets one, I think, is she 2 or 3 medals behind or something?
I think so.
Or did she cross him? But I mean, heck, Simone Biles is the greatest gymnast ever, and there is no way possible I'd ever try and do what she does, and that's freaky. I don't know how she does it.
Well, like I said, and there were people that were doing sports that were not expected, because one of the things that I was really impressed with, because it is not a sport that many African Americans get into, and particularly African American males, but Freddie Flip is truly amazing. But I was also impressed by the gentleman, I forget his name, that is the pommel horse expert and all along those lines, because that was his one kind of event, and he has mastered that event big time, and I think he even got a.
Is that the guy everybody was saying nerdy because he wears glasses?
That's what I'm talking about. He's the pommel horse expert. Right? Yes, he's got that nerd look and everything.
Yeah, that's a gripe of mine. That if I'm looking at pretty ladies on the internet, if they're wearing glasses, there's always nerdy in the description. It's like, come on.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that they're nerdy and everything along those lines. But just really quickly, because I got to bounce off for a meeting, but y'all can close out, and then I'll come in end everything along that. And I see you had to go too, Sasha. But just what is our take on the whole notion of the tattoos and all along those lines? Because I did see a number, and more than I've seen in the last several years, of athletes from around the world that are getting tattoos. And like I said earlier, I'm not a big fan because I know that it involves needles. So I'm not going to try to get any needles on me, even though my brother has tattoos and has some other things, including earrings, I was not going to get, because I'm not a big fan of personal pain if I can avoid it and everything. So what is your take on this tattoo culture and everything? And I don't know if I think you said you have some tattoos. I don't know.
I have one little tattoo that says "Born to do Math."
Okay.
But I used to not be a fan of tattoos because, like, the quality of tattoos 20, 30 years ago, they were sloppy, they were bad. I think the average quality of tattoos is improved. So, if you're going to get tattoos, like, don't be drunk, and, shop for a quality artist, And the tattoos of the future are going to, if you look at science fiction, in the future, we're going to have brighter colors. We're going to have tattoos that move, that they crawl around under your skin. And that'll be fun.
Oh, Mark disappeared on me. I thought that was Mark on the screen. But I like the tattoo culture. I mean, I think it's really cool. I mean, I like artwork. So the cool part about the artwork is that there's stories behind it. And I like stories. So usually when I see somebody with a tattoo, I first enjoy not only the artist, but then I want to hear what the story behind that artwork is. What took you there? What does it mean to you? Because they take you on a journey. That's the fun part. So yeah, I enjoy the tattoo culture. From athletes to just even a person, even a cashier in a store. They're just fun. Everybody has a story to tell, and those stories are hidden in those tattoos. And yeah, it's kind of cool. Even there's a dude who goes to get a motorcycle and ends up accidentally getting a scooter.
Also, like, make sure that your tattoo place has like good sanitation standards. You don't want to get hepatitis.
No, you definitely want to do that. You want to make sure that you are safe in whatever tattoo you're getting, and all along those lines, because it can be very dangerous as well and everything. And I do remember there was a young lady at one of our local bars that had a tattoo, and she had like one of those massive body tattoos that was covering all of the body. So there are some people that love it, and it becomes like their personal canvas, kind of to your point, Jacoby. So I have seen some artists, and sometimes it can be wonderful and everything, but I do sometimes wonder about how they age, because some of the tattoos age better than others. So again,
they should improve the reversibility of tattoos, because it takes like dozens of sessions. Like if you get a real dark one, to get all the ink out of you blasting it with lasers. They should.
What's also super cool, I think it was The World According to Jeff Goldblum, the show that was on Disney Plus. He went and looked at the old, how they did old Hawaiian tattoos and how they used the N and the tapping of it and stuff. That was always super cool to watch too. Yeah, I mean, there's some neat stuff with tattoos. Really neat stuff with tattoos.
Cool. Well, tattoos can be wonderful, and all along those lines. Who is one of the performers? I mentioned her, but who was one of the performers that you really enjoyed, if any, doing the closing ceremony? Because like I said, I just see Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I saw even a rapper, I think his name is Phoenix. He might be out of France and everything, but I just wondered if there were any that caught your attention that maybe you didn't even know that now you're doing research on. Because I know there was I think a French opera singer and a French singer, R&B singer, that I was probably going to check into just to see if I can hear more of their music, because what I heard I was impressed with.
I didn't see the whole thing. I just watched the Tom Cruise part of it, and that guy he threw himself out of an airplane. He rode a motorcycle. He rappelled into this. That guy just likes to take physical risks, but I guess he's done it enough. I don't know how much of a risk it is, but it's crazy, that a guy like, he's $1 billion guy. If you're throwing around an asset that's worth $1 billion to movie producers, and he's just doing, it's craziness.
The Scientologists were not going to put that man in harm, so that was going to be the safest thing.
Yeah, I wish that I don't. That's the one fly in the Cruise ointment is Scientology.
Well, that is an ointment and everything. Some people were watching and they were seeing this mysterious plane fly all the way from Paris to France in a matter of minutes. So you do have to love kind of the Hollywood nature of the closing, because I'm going like, there's no way that plane got from Paris to Los Angeles in what amounted to about 3 minutes if you're going by the nature of the way the closing was done. So there was definitely some Hollywood magic that was taking place as well. And I'm sure some people were teasing about that because they know the logistics, to your point, Jacoby, the logistics. So yeah, they had another event already planned for Los Angeles, but if you watch the story narrative, it was like it happened in kind of like chronological order, and just anybody that knows trips knows that was not going to happen. Even if you have your own private plane, because I think we have a couple people on this network that may even have their own and everything. But just logic will say that is not going to happen as fast as it happened in the Hollywood way that the closing was done. So I just wanted y'all's take on that, because I'm sure some people are going like, no way that they're in Los Angeles already. And I was also kind of, because I think they did it on the beachfront, and it was a decent crowd, but it wasn't like a packed crowd and everything. So I'm sure that they had a select crowd that they wanted to be there, and it wasn't going to be like a full show in the way you would if you were filling up a Coliseum and everything.
People have little quibbles about the Olympics.
Right.
But if you compare this to some of the not great Olympics of the past, like Sochi, which was Putin's Winter Olympics, this thing was, a total success.
Oh, yeah. I totally agree with you that it was a total success and everything. But tell me what your take, because I know you like me have done events.
I mean, the numbers tell you it was up 75% on Tokyo, and that was the last Olympic.
Right.
So, viewership up 75% is a big time win.
Oh yeah, definitely a big time win. Do you think that this Olympics will, speaking of that, because I mentioned some of the sports that I watch that I don't usually watch, and I'm wondering, will we see a boost in some of those sports and everything? So will we see people maybe trying to find a water polo match in their community, or maybe going to watch some handball matches on some of the sports networks that might not have watched it before but found a new love for certain sports? So I'm wondering, are we going to see a boost in some of these lesser known sports just because of their Olympic popularity, at least like a temporary boost? So I was just wondering your take on that. You're in the media space as well, Jacoby. So we're going to see like maybe some people running out there and deciding that they want to watch maybe whenever Gabby plays next, the Brazilian player, along with her teammates, or want to watch the guy volleyball teams or even the handball teams. I think there was an Indian team that did fairly well and everything. So we're going to see a boost in some of these sports that weren't as that aren't usually popular, because we know here in the U.S., because the other thing that I saw this weekend that I was not expecting, because it's hard to believe we're already in August, so preseason football is out there. So during the Olympics, there were a couple of preseason football games, and you got to see some of these football players try to fight for their positions, because the main stars like Patrick Mahomes, whose team lost, I think I forgot who they lost to, but he only played for like maybe less than a quarter, because they don't want him to get hurt and everything. So I just wanted your take on whether it will be a boost, and also the nature of preseason football, because we are in the middle of preseason football as well.
I just looked up an article that says that Olympics do not necessarily increase, I'm sure for certain kids, kids who are 6 years old and they'll go into gymnastics, and some of those kids, 12 years from now will be in the Olympics. But as far as the statistical effect, maybe not.
Yep. What's your take, Jacoby?
I mean, I agree. I mean, there'll probably be a few kids that jump in here and there. Nothing that's going to be major. The only thing that might improve statistically as something noticeable would probably be in rugby, just because Alana Marr, she blew up. And with football season here, and the way Alana plays is amazing. And watching her play rugby, I think there will be a few more that follow her than others trying to jump into gymnastics because of the kid on the pommel horse, or jump into archery because of, the individuals in China and South Korea going back and forth, or the individual. No, I think if anything were to jump to something statistically noticeable by like 1 or 2 points, it would be rugby, if anything.
Well,
here's another issue, which is we're not here yet, but we're going to be in the next few Olympics, is CRISPR gene editing technology, where, right now you can, if your parents have a lot of money, they can buy HGH and make you taller. And in the future, there'll be all sorts of genetic tweaks available. And, I don't know how they're going to fight it. But
speaking of those genetic tweaks and everything, there is another Olympics, and I think we would be kind of not doing service if we did, or doing a disservice if we didn't mention it. And some of those people may be able to be, if you want to say, genetically fixed. But as the Olympics ended and the torch and the flag was passed on to LA, this week they are starting the Paralympics, which is the Olympics for those that are facing various handicaps. So there'll be wheelchair basketball, there'll be a number of blind athletes, there'll be a number of paraplegics that'll be doing amazing races, and some of those athletes are even more amazing than our regular athletes. I'm not knocking the regular athletes because they were truly wonderful, but some of these paraplegic athletes are doing both athleticism, but also doing it while suffering from various severe handicaps and all along those lines. So, Jacoby and Rick, do y'all have any thoughts? Because the Paraplegic Olympics will be starting. I think they started yesterday, but or maybe today, but they will be going on for about a week or two there in Paris as well. So the Olympics will go from the regular Olympics to the paraplegics. I'm not sure if LA is going to do the same thing. I think they did the same thing in Tokyo.
I think every Olympics has both of them. But I have to remind myself to tune in because it doesn't get nearly as big a push.
Right. What's your take on that, Jacoby? You've got some folks in that health issue and with your own family and everything. You've got folks in the health field in your family. So I just wanted your take on the Paraplegic Olympics.
I mean, the Paralympics it should, as Rick said, it doesn't get as noticed as it should. And hopefully more people, based off of how well the Olympics was done, will follow along with the Paralympics as well. Because again, the only way to actually increase not only the events, the actual participants, is to increase viewership. Think of it like the NBA and the WNBA. The WNBA is starting to grow, and now since it's starting to grow, we're able to get more teams, able to get more money for these young ladies playing the game. It's the same thing with Paralympics. Bigger prize pools, bigger things for the Olympics. It just helps out to get more viewership, and that's what needs to happen with the Paralympics.
No doubt about that. As we get ready to wrap up and everything, like I mentioned, the wheelchair, the basketball, and all along those lines. But is there a particular sport in the Paralympics that you are looking forward to and everything? Because they also have 22 sports and everything along those lines, and it will start. Actually, looks like it'll be starting later because it looks like it will be featuring 22 sports and 23 disciplines from August 28th to September 8th. So it's not immediate.
Well, the track events, the running events are pretty impressive because I think, with the springy leg deals, I think they can go at least as fast as, track athletes who have two legs.
Yeah. What about you, Jacoby? Is there any sports that you're looking for in these events that will be taking place from August 28th to September?
I mean, the track events are always fun to watch. So that's what I usually watch, mainly because I used to run track, and then, going out to the Special Olympics events, those are fun, and watching the track and field events there are great. So that's usually what I end up watching with the Paralympics. I try and get into the basketball some because there is, in Raleigh, there was a wheelchair basketball league that had a tournament that took place. So that was kind of cool to see as well. But yeah, mainly the track and field.
And I think there's one of the athletes that's coming from Durham. I can't remember if he's doing boxing or wrestling or basketball, but Dwayne, I think is his name, maybe like Dwayne Jones or something like that. But I did see that there was a profile on him that there will be a para athlete that'll be there in the games and everything. And the last thing that I'll say about games is that here in the Triangle, I believe it's later on, maybe next year or something. It might even be coming up later on this year. And I think we've had one of the guests on the new show, World Edition, but the Summer World University Games will be taking place in the Triangle. So that's coming here in our way and all along those lines. So I did see that is coming here. So it'll be interesting to see our role in that. So Jacoby, are you going to be taking place at all when they come here? Because I do know that they're coming here in the near time and everything. So there'll be some World University Games here in our area of the Triangle and everything. So I was wondering if you're going to be doing any work in that space.
I mean, I would love to help out that space. If they ask me to come, I'll come and help them out.
And then it's actually after the LA Olympics, so it's planned not immediately, but it's the 2029 one, so the 2029 FISU World University Games. So we got 4 years to get it together, but yeah, the World University Games will be coming to North Carolina in 2029. So there'll be the International University Sports Federation announced that in January of last year. So they've got time to get it together, and I think some of the universities and some of the other people will be hosting events throughout this area where we live. So me and Jacoby might have to figure out ways to get involved in the announcing or some other way, maybe even the planning of some of that going on as well. But yeah, that's planned for about 5 years from now. Cool. And on that note, we're going to get on out of here. It's been a good talk about entertainment and media and everything. I do believe that right about now they should be talking about timeshares and all along those lines. And then later on, I have the radio show, and I know Maxine's got her show at 7, and I think Dr. Anthony will be talking about education as well. But right now, we're going to get on out of here. It's been a good show, both with World Edition, Economics, and now the media show. But we still got continue the program on Pod TV. But right now, me and Jacoby are going to get on out of here. He's got stuff going on, and I've got to get to Haytown later on. So we're getting ready to bounce on out of here, and we'll see you fine folks on tomorrow on the World Edition and some of the other programming as well.